A brand new car just lost close to 80% of its value in under 2 years. That's not a typo. 80%. We're talking about financial obliteration on a scale that makes the worst stock market crashes look tame. The Fisker Ocean went from $40,000 electric SUV to $8,000 digital brick faster than any vehicle in modern automotive history. But here's what terrifies me. It's not alone. 14 other new cars are hemorrhaging value so fast their owners are trapped underwater with no escape route. These aren't just bad investments. They're wealth destroyers with fatal defects that were minimized, rushed, or ignored before buyers signed the paperwork. Number 1 is the Fisker Ocean, and this 80% collapse represents the single worst depreciation disaster in automotive history. When Fisker filed for bankruptcy in June 2024, buyer confidence evaporated instantly. Owners reported severe software and access issues, including key fob malfunctions and loss of connected features after the bankruptcy filing. That rotating center screen everyone thought was innovative? Reports of it freezing mid-rotation, trapping climate controls in unusable positions. Phantom battery drain complaints surfaced across owner forums. Even if some vehicles still function normally, the perceived risk alone has obliterated resale value. But here's the nightmare scenario. You can't even sell these things. Dealerships won't touch them. Private buyers know the software support is gone forever. I've seen Oceans listed for $8,000 with zero interest. The repair infrastructure doesn't exist. Independent shops can't access the proprietary systems. You're holding a $40,000 paperweight that looks like an SUV. Number 2 is the Toyota Mirai, losing roughly 77% of its value, and the reason is infrastructure apocalypse. Shell permanently closed several California hydrogen stations in 2024, shrinking an already fragile refueling network. The remaining stations tripled their pricing to $36 per kilogram. That's $180 to fill your tank. But price isn't even the real problem. Mirai owners are spending 2 to 3 hours driving 22 miles just to reach a functioning hydrogen pump. The refueling network that Toyota promised would expand? It's contracting, fast. I've documented cases where owners couldn't refuel for 4 days because every nearby station was offline. Toyota is still selling these cars, knowing the infrastructure is collapsing. The depreciation reflects reality. Nobody wants a car that can't refuel. Number 3 is the Maserati Levante, hemorrhaging roughly 70% of its value. That's up to $91,000 evaporated. Insurance averages $6,000 annually because these things break constantly. Maserati ranks dead last in reliability surveys. The electrical system is a disaster. The air suspension fails so frequently that independent shops stock the components. But here's what killed the Levante. Maserati announced 2024 as the final model year. Future parts support remains unclear. Warranty work is already getting complicated as dealerships consolidate. The depreciation isn't just about quality problems. It's about discontinuation with limited long-term clarity. When a manufacturer ends a model this abruptly, the used market collapses because buyers know they're inheriting an orphan. Number 4 is the Mercedes EQS SUV, losing around 61% of its value despite a $110,000 starting price. They nicknamed this thing the driving EGG because the styling is that polarizing. But the real problem is the interior. Cheap plastics everywhere, hard touch points that feel like a $30,000 car. The hyperscreen looks impressive until you realize it's solving problems that don't exist while creating new ones. The tech interface is so complicated that owners are scheduling dealership appointments just to learn basic functions. But here's the financial killer. This SUV devours tires every 15 to 20,000 miles. That's $1,200 to $1,500 per set. The weight distribution and instant torque are destroying rubber faster than any vehicle I've tracked. Factor in the depreciation, and you're losing $8 per mile just in value loss. Number 5 is the Jaguar I-Pace, dropping around 58%. And the discontinuation announcement killed whatever residual value remained. Jaguar is pivoting entirely to ultra-luxury EVs starting in 2026. The I-Pace doesn't fit that strategy. Future software updates remain uncertain. Long-term parts support faces questions. But even before the discontinuation news, this car had problems. It charges at 100 kilowatts, while competitors hit 250 plus. That's not a small difference. It's the gap between a 30-minute charge stop and a 90-minute ordeal. The I-Pace pioneered the luxury EV crossover segment, then got obliterated by better products from brands with actual commitment to the platform. The depreciation reflects a simple truth. Nobody wants an orphaned EV from a manufacturer that's abandoning the segment. Here's the pattern connecting these 5. They're not just cars with bad resale. They're vehicles with fatal structural problems: infrastructure failure, discontinuation, bankruptcy, quality collapse. These are defects that can't be fixed with a software update or a recall. The manufacturers pushed products the market rejected, then left buyers holding discontinued platforms with uncertain futures. The 80% loss on the Fisker Ocean isn't an outlier. It's a warning. When you're shopping for a new car, you're not just buying transportation. You're betting on the manufacturer's long-term commitment to support that platform. These 5 prove that BET can go catastrophically wrong. This isn't anti-EV, it's anti-launching unfinished platforms and dumping the risk on buyers. Number 6 is the Nissan Ariya, losing roughly 54% of its value, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Nissan launched this EV right as tariff uncertainty and shifting emissions regulations created chaos in the electric vehicle market. Then Nissan discontinued it for 2026. That announcement came less than 2 years after launch. I tracked a real listing that lost $27,000 in 12 months. The owner bought it thinking Nissan's EV commitment was genuine. Instead, they got trapped holding a discontinued model with questionable long-term support. The charging network access is decent, the interior quality is acceptable, but none of that matters when the manufacturer signals they're abandoning the platform. Dealers are slashing prices to clear inventory. Used buyers see those discounts and refuse to pay anywhere near original MSRP. The depreciation reflects a brutal reality. Nissan couldn't compete in the EV space, and owners are paying for that failure. Number 7 is the Alfa Romeo Giulia, hemorrhaging around 54%, despite being one of the best driving sedans on the market. This car handles like a dream. The steering feedback is phenomenal. The chassis balance is near perfect. Then, the electronic throttle fails, or the engine computer bricks itself, or the infotainment system requires a full replacement because a software glitch corrupted the hardware. I've documented Giulia owners with 5 major failures in the first 30,000 miles. The depreciation isn't about driving dynamics. It's about reliability so catastrophic that nobody wants to own one outside of warranty. Independent repair shops are seeing electrical gremlins they can't diagnose. Dealership service departments are replacing entire modules because they can't isolate the actual problem. You're buying Italian driving excellence wrapped in electrical chaos that will bankrupt you the moment the warranty expires. Number 8 is the Audi RS e-tron GT, losing roughly 53%. That's an $89,000 loss in under 2 years. This is essentially a Porsche Taycan with Audi badges, but the market sees through the rebadging. Porsche's brand equity holds value. Audi's EV lineup has been a complete mess. The e-tron naming confusion alone damaged resale values. Buyers don't know if they're getting first-generation tech or updated systems. The RS model commands a massive premium when new, then collapses when used. Buyers realize they can get Taycan performance with better residuals. Audi's depreciation has always been steep, but the EV transition accelerated the collapse. The RS e-tron GT is fast. It's well built. But it's also a financial trap for anyone who bought it full price, thinking the RS badge would protect their investment. Number 9 is the iX, dropping around 52%, and that divisive styling killed it. Those angry beaver teeth grills polarized buyers so severely that BMW flooded dealers with inventory nobody wanted. The iX is actually a solid EV. The range is competitive. The interior is luxurious. The tech integration works well, but styling matters. When you're spending $70,000 on a vehicle, you want something that looks good in your driveway. The iX looks like a design experiment that should have stayed in the concept phase. Add in the fact that it does not qualify for federal tax credits because it is imported, and you have a perfect depreciation storm. BMW is already discounting these heavily to move metal. Used buyers see those discounts and the value collapse accelerates. Number 10 is the Dodge Hornet, losing roughly 51%, and this rebadged Alfa Romeo deception destroyed whatever trust Dodge had left. The Hornet is literally an Alfa Romeo Tonale with different badges. That means you're inheriting all of Alfa's electrical disasters in a vehicle marketed as American muscle. The electrical system is a complete disaster. Phantom battery drains, infotainment failures, sensor malfunctions that trigger limp mode. Dealers are sitting on 323 days of inventory because nobody wants these things. Dodge's reputation was built on V8 reliability. The Hornet represents everything wrong with badge engineering. You're paying for Dodge's name while getting Alfa's problems. The depreciation reflects buyers figuring out the deception and running away. Number 11 is the Toyota BZ4X, losing around 50% of its value, and that catastrophic wheel detachment recall destroyed whatever credibility this electric vehicle had. Toyota issued a full stop sale after discovering the wheels could literally fall off during normal driving. The bolt pattern wasn't torqued correctly from the factory, but the recall was just the beginning of the problems. The charging speed is painfully slow. We're talking about 40-minute stops to reach 80% on a fast charger. The regenerative braking system fails randomly, forcing drivers to rely entirely on friction brakes. I've documented cases where the system cuts out mid-deceleration in traffic. Toyota's first serious electric vehicle attempt proved they rushed the engineering. The BZ4X depreciation reflects buyers realizing Toyota's hybrid expertise doesn't translate to battery electric competence. You're buying a vehicle from a manufacturer that clearly didn't understand the technology before launching it. Number 12 is the Tesla Cybertruck, hemorrhaging around 50% despite the cult following and years of hype. The design alienated actual truck buyers who need functional bed space and normal proportions. Quality problems surfaced immediately: panel gaps, rust spots on the stainless steel, accelerator pedals that stick, trim pieces falling off during normal driving. But here's what killed the value. Tesla's aggressive production created inventory nobody wanted. The reservation list evaporated once people saw the real product. Dealers started discounting. Used values collapsed. For buyers who treat it as a lifestyle vehicle, it delivers exactly what Tesla promised. But that audience is far smaller than Tesla projected. As a practical truck, the towing range limitations and bed design compromises can't compete with traditional options at half the price. Number 13 is the Genesis G60, dropping roughly 49%. And those 10 major system failures remain unfixed after multiple recalls. The phantom emergency braking activates randomly at intersections. The driver display dies completely, leaving you with no speedometer or warning lights. The charging system occasionally refuses to recognize fast chargers. Genesis issued software updates that didn't fix the core problems. I've tracked owners with 4 dealership visits in 6 months for the same recurring failures. The GV60 was supposed to establish Genesis as a legitimate luxury EV brand. Instead, it proved they weren't ready for prime time. The depreciation reflects buyers learning that Genesis doesn't have the engineering depth to compete with established luxury EVs. You're betting on a brand that's still figuring out basic reliability while your equity evaporates. Number 14 is the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, losing around 48%, and that $103,000 starting price created an identity crisis nobody could solve. Who's the buyer? Traditional Jeep customers can't afford it. Luxury buyers won't accept Stellantis quality. The result is a vehicle stuck between markets with appeal to neither. Stellantis quality has collapsed across all brands. Electrical problems, transmission failures, infotainment glitches. The Grand Wagoneer inherits all of these issues while commanding Range Rover pricing. Dealers are offering massive discounts just to move inventory. Those discounts destroy used values because buyers see new vehicles selling for $15,000 under MSRP and refuse to pay anywhere near original price for used examples. The depreciation reflects a fundamental miscalculation about what the market wanted. Number 15 is the Ford F-150 Lightning, dropping roughly 47%, and cold weather performance obliterated buyer confidence. The range collapses in winter. We're talking about 40% losses in sub-freezing temperatures. Towing performance is catastrophic. Hook up a trailer and watch your range drop to 80 miles. Ford is reportedly considering cancellation because the math doesn't work. The Lightning was supposed to electrify America's best-selling vehicle. Instead, it proved that traditional truck buyers aren't ready to sacrifice capability for electrification. The depreciation reflects reality. EV trucks work for specific use cases. They fail for the core truck buyer who needs consistent range and towing capacity, regardless of weather or load. Here's the pattern connecting all 15. Manufacturers pushed products the market rejected, ignored fatal flaws, or abandoned support too quickly. The Fisker Ocean's bankruptcy. The Mirai's infrastructure collapse. The Levante's discontinuation. These aren't isolated failures. They reveal systemic problems with how automakers launch products. They prioritize marketing over engineering. They promise support they can't deliver. They bet on infrastructure that doesn't exist. You're left holding the financial consequences. The real danger isn't just losing 50% of your investment. It's that these depreciation rates signal deeper problems you'll inherit. EVs without charging infrastructure. Luxury cars without quality control. Startups without financial stability. The value collapse is the market's way of pricing in those risks after the fact. But you can avoid becoming the cautionary tale. Before buying any new car, research discontinuation risk. Check if the manufacturer is committed long-term or just testing the market. Investigate brand quality trends. One bad model might be an outlier. Consistent problems across the lineup mean systemic issues. Calculate real-world ownership costs beyond the monthly payment. Insurance, tires, repairs, and depreciation often exceed the loan cost. These 15 cars prove that new doesn't mean safe. The biggest financial losses come from vehicles that looked good on paper but collapsed in reality. Four-wheel truth exists for one reason: to keep you from financing someone else's engineering mistakes. Subscribe if you want cars that last, hold value, and don't turn into financial sinkholes. Watch the next video, where I break down the cars that actually hold value and why their engineering makes the difference.